Good evening and welcome to Across the Pitch. We're the soccer show for people who think Phoenix Rising is Egyptian mythology.
Ooh, deep. Oh, I like that. Is it though?
It could be.
I think the Phoenix Rising FC would be
Ah,
the one that would be appropriate to this show.
Here it is.
yes. On tonight's show of Across the Pitch, the 371st most popular sports and recreation podcast on the UK Apple chart. That's right, we're 371st with a bullet. Matt Robards goes into hiding as we discuss a sorry state of affairs ball in Chelsea. We go on an ornithological expedition and we discover that there is some life in some old black cats. But first,
Tonight we're going to talk about the Phoenix Rising, our hometown team. It's going to be a bit of a preseason preview episode. My name is Phil Kennedy, and as always, I'm here with my co-hosts,
Arran.
Matt Robards.
Thank you for joining me tonight, gentlemen, and I'm really excited to talk about the Phoenix Rising. We actually just finished watching them beat the MLS side Portland Timbers in a
Yes.
preseason matchup in the Mobile Mini Sun Cup. And Matt, I believe that you've prepared a pretty thorough breakdown for us on some of the new acquisitions.
Yeah, Phoenix Rising has been doing some business this offseason. We've re-signed a couple players, but we've brought in a lot of new faces. And so head on over to acrossthepitch.com and find my article on the Phoenix Rising FC roster, as well as 4 players I think you should keep an eye on this year that will impact how this season goes.
Fantastic. It was a 1-0 victory there. Fantastic win over the Portland Timbers. We won't talk about the previous games because, we can't count too much into these preseason games and the results of it. But what we're looking for here is the players. So, yes, go and have a look at Matt's article on acrossthepitch.com/blog. Have a read up.
There's 13 returning players from last year. So out of last year's closing roster that had 29 players on it, 13 are returning. So that means 16 players from last year have left, and bringing in a few new players. It seems like every other day or so announcing a new signing. And this information I'm actually getting from an excellent article by John McPherson that he wrote for Sports 360 AZ, and I definitely recommend giving it a look here because he really did a great breakdown of the roster, and we're going to go a little bit more in depth on that and some of the new players here tonight. So let's get started with the Phoenix Rising breakdown.
This is remarkable amounts of turnover from a team that came second last year.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand, it is a professional league. It is in the second tier. But you would think that surely they might be able to retain players, or are they just really going in there and just saying, hey, you know what, we've got some holes to fill. We're not afraid to make these changes because we're going to make them work. We have confidence in the franchise. It's just something that happens elsewhere, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, this is normal for the USL.
Oh.
Being a second-tier league, most players playing in the USL sign 1-year deals. They're not guaranteed, second years. And so a team, especially like the Rising, who are looking for that push to MLS, looking to make moves, not only in just building their brand, but getting their name out there. I think it's a big deal for a team to re-sign 13 players. I mean, that's a core team. 13 players returning from last year, as you mentioned, going out in the USL Cup 1-0 is a big deal. But this is normal. This is the USL, man. 1-year contracts. Most players move on to different USL teams.
Yeah.
Or hopefully they make that jump up to the MLS.
That fascinates me because I thought that was actually high, but obviously I'm looking at that from a different perspective. I've only been following the USL for a couple of years now. So you're saying this is actually low?
There's really not any contracts longer than 2 years in the USL, and 2 years is really a rare thing. Everybody else is just year to year from what I've read.
Yeah.
I haven't been following it, more than a couple of years either, like you were saying. And yeah, I mean, it's a lot of turnover, but also if you figure 13 players, well, that's a whole starting lineup.
Right.
I mean, not all of those are starters, and of course, we're going to miss Chris Cortez. Cortez, but I think that really brings us into a player that I know that Matt, you've wanted to talk about, and it's actually the guy that scored the winning goal tonight, which was Adam Jahn. He did also have a goal the other night against Houston, the only goal that they scored against Houston. And I know that we had some questions because Cortez is big shoes to fill, but from what I've seen so far, I think I'm sold on Adam Jahn.
Yeah, I think Adam Jahn's going to be the player to watch this season. I mean, he's coming in, taking over for Chris Cortez, who was our leading goal scorer last year, 19 goals. And so he has big shoes to fill. Like you pointed out, I mean, this is where he needs to step up. If I'm being honest, Adam Jahn's goal scoring record is not that impressive.
Really?
And so I think he's at a big point in his career. I think this was a big move for him. I think it was a big step for him to say, you know what, I'm going to take a step down out of the MLS,
right,
where I spent most of my time as a backup, and I'm going to step into a USL team that needs a goal scorer.
Right.
And this is for him to step up and say, I'm the number 9, I'm the starting striker, and I'm going to score goals. So just real quickly, I just want to run through some of these. He spent 3 years with the Earthquakes in San Jose, 62 league appearances, and he scored 6 goals.
Do you have any stats on how many minutes per game he was playing? So I mean, 62 appearances are these times he was starting and playing 70 to 90 minutes, or were these 62 appearances where he came in on the 75th minute?
In 2017, playing in the MLS with the Columbus Crew, he made 21 appearances and he scored 1 goal playing 313 minutes.
Yeah, that's not a lot.
It's not exactly top shelf there, is it, hey?
Right. And so we're looking at this of, okay, we just lost Chris Cortez, who, like I said, scored 19 goals for us last year. Didier Drogba missed most of 2018, with his World Cup duties,
right,
and just being what it is to be an ambassador and a co-owner of a sports franchise.
At times, I thought Drogba was more of a distraction, especially at the end of the year when they brought him back. Now, he stepped up at the playoffs, but I think that we can have a more cohesive team this year without Drogba in and out of the lineup like that.
Controversial call.
Right. I mean, even Drogba came in and scored 8 goals.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
In the time he played. And so Adam Jahn's the man. He needs to step up as that number 9, that center forward, and carry this team. And I have to say, Phil, I'm with you. I've been very impressed so far with this preseason with him. He had a great goal against RSL, Real Salt Lake, the MLS club out of Salt Lake City, obviously.
Not even 2 minutes into the game.
Right.
Right.
We saw the press work very well. They've been working on that in the offseason. Asante intercepts the ball, plays him through, and he slots it past Nick Raimondo, who's arguably a U.S. men's national team legend, has been playing in the MLS for a lot of years. And then tonight, he gets the winning goal against the Portland Timbers, who just played in the MLS Cup.
Yep.
And so it's looking very good. I think he's ready to step into being the main striker, the main man.
That was a big league move he made today, too.
Yeah.
He juked that guy out of his shoes.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, go hit up Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Phoenix Rising FC, and look at that highlight. I mean, he put the guy...
That poor guy has family.
Yeah. And he put it top corner, too.
That was a beautiful finish.
It was nicely finished, and so I think he's ready. I mean, this is his time in his career to step up and say, I can do this. He's 28, so he's kind of hitting those prime years in his career. And so I expect a lot out of him. I think he's obviously going to hit double digits. And so hopefully...
I'm going to step out and say that he's going to get 20 goals this year. I'm going to call 20 goals from Adam Jahn this year.
Breaking Chris Cortez's scoring record. I like it.
Confident call there, Phil.
Another guy that you mentioned was Solomon Asante. What about that move that he made to beat 3 defenders against Salt Lake? He didn't end up scoring, but that was some kind of play. Do you guys had a chance to see that highlight?
Yeah. I've always been a bit of a fan of Asante. I've always found him, he never takes a backward step, this guy. He's short, like he must be 5'0", but he's quick, and every touch that he takes is forward. He's always looking to progress that ball forward.
Yeah.
And I find him a very exciting player to watch. He's got the skills about him, and I certainly know that my partner Cindy, that he's her favourite.
5'2" is what he's listed at, and you don't think about height being that big of a factor in soccer, but I honestly do believe he has the skills where if he was maybe even 2 or 3 inches taller, he would probably be playing at a higher level, and it's the reason that he's even in the USL.
So look at Solomon Asante going up against Matt Beasler, U.S. men's national team center back, and he spins him.
Yeah.
He takes on players. He's not afraid. He can score goals. He had 14 last year, 14 goals, 10 assists last year. I agree with you, Phil. Had he been 4 inches taller, he would be playing in the MLS.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes life throws you that curveball, but he certainly is making the most out of life here at Phoenix Rising.
Right, and we love him.
He's a midfielder, so he's scoring all of those goals from the midfield. He's not a striker either.
Yeah, he plays, out there on the wing.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's Adam Jahn, I think, is going to be a key player for a successful season. What about you guys? Do you have a player in mind that you think is going to be vital to this year?
I do. I'm quite interested to see how Joey Calistri is going to go for us. He showed a couple of points of, brilliance in the preseason matches that I've watched. I'd like to see him have a bit more game time and see how he goes, but I'm hoping he can certainly add to that goal scoring tally for us this year as well.
Right on.
I definitely, I agree with what you're saying, Aaron. I know that Calistri, he ended up playing in that first matchup today against New York Red Bull, where we won't talk about the score to that one, but
remember, Phil, it's preseason, it doesn't matter.
He did end up scoring in that one, and he seems to be slotted as kind of a guy who's going to be in a substitute role. I think, although he's more of a midfielder, I could see him more in that Billy Forbes type role where they're going to bring him in late in the game if they need to get a little bit of extra punch. But he's really impressed me, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him be a guy that maybe gets more playing time as the season goes on. Another guy that really has impressed me is Junior Flemings. I think that he's a real creative player at the midfield, and I think in terms of the turnover, that one of the things that the Rising were really lacking last year outside of Solomon Asante was offense from the midfield, and in fact Didier Drogba a lot of times was even being played at midfield.
Yes.
As opposed to a striker. So, I mean, that should tell you right there that they were hurting a little bit on offense from the midfield, and they brought in Flemings and Calistri. He's a winger. He's not a true striker either. Aguinagua, I'm not sure if I pronounced that correct. He's another offensive-minded, attacking-type midfielder that they brought in. And then we're also going to get Alessandro Rigi back at some point in the season.
He's a fan favorite.
He was really turning it on last year before he had that knee injury.
Yes, he was. An absolute fan favorite there, Rigi. I think we missed him. I mean, obviously we advanced all the way to the final, but may have actually gotten there had he been playing.
Well, and Chris Cortez missed that final game too. Don't forget that.
No, that's quite right. Yes, yeah, you're right.
Asante was even banged up. I mean, Orange County, I'm the kind of guy that I acknowledge that it's a tough game, and I'm all for physical play, but Orange County probably played the dirtiest game I've ever seen played that didn't involve the Italian national team.
Oh, yes, Bill. Damn, I'm with you on that one, mate.
That was last season, and I think that we have a lot to look forward to, and I think that Coach Rick Shantz has said that the team is really committed to playing more of an attacking style. Last year, they played a little bit of Merino ball at times, and it worked for them. But this year, they're looking to play more of that Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp attacking, high press style of football is what I'm hearing for the coaching staff.
Just on the coach, by the way, I am very, very impressed with this. Rick Shantz.
A caretaker last year, actually, and then took them all the way to the finals, and then made permanent this year.
Right.
We had to listen to him in the kit launch. This guy is absolutely passionate about the club. He obviously knows what he's doing. Like, they took him all the way to the final, and he is no doubt having an effect on which players he's signing. He has just taken that caretaker role and run with it, and I'm very impressed with him. He's also quite well aware of how Phoenix Rising is impacting the local community.
Yeah, he took over twice for us when we were struggling, when we lost our coaches. You know, we had Frank Yallop left and Rick Shantz stepped in and was the caretaker until they appointed Patrice Carteron.
That's right.
And then he went to Egypt and played.
He had a bit of a shocker there from what I hear too.
Yeah, and then he stepped in and he took again, taking over that caretaker role. What I love about him is he's a local guy.
Yes.
Working down there with FC Tucson. He had amassed a huge winning percentage there, and then Phoenix Rising brought him over, and then he took on. And I mean, you could see the team transform last year under Rick Shantz when he took over. They started playing well. It's a great move by Phoenix Rising to take a chance on a local guy.
Take a chance on Shantz. Yes.
Yeah, right. When in reality, they could have spent the money to probably go out and get someone that's a big name. I mean, look at what Las Vegas did. They went out and got Eric Winalda, U.S. men's national team alumni, had coached other places, and they went out and made this.
Jurgen Klinsmann's still out there.
Right. And so we could have made a big splash. And I love that this organization said, nope, we believe that we have the right guy here who was brought up in Arizona. He understands what soccer means to this community. He understands what this franchise means to this community. And I think you just see the joy in his face when he's out there coaching. You know, before their last preseason match against RSL, Real Salt Lake, my wife and I were there and we watched the teams come out. Rick was kind of making his way out last and people were dispersing from where they were walking by. And I said, hey, go get him, coach. And he just looked over and he said, thank you.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that was his response. It wasn't like he ignored me because he's the coach of Phoenix Rising FC and I'm just some nobody drinking a beer, you know, wearing a Phoenix Rising hat. He acknowledged that and his response was thank you. He loves the support. He appreciates that here. And so I thought it was great. I thought it was a great appointment and I hope nothing but the best for him. And I honestly think this year we're going to raise 3 cups.
Oh, I love that, Matty. Yes.
The treble.
We're going to win that Western Conference. We're going to win the USL Cup. And then we're going to take home the inaugural Four Corners Cup.
Ah, right. I thought you were talking about the US Open Cup, but yeah, okay, cool.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
I thought you were going to go there and then, throw in the CONCACAF Champions League while we're at it. With Rick Shantz, what you're saying in terms of him taking over and kind of being there for the team every time they've needed a guy to step in, it's really reminiscent of a guy that I'm sure anybody that's spent any amount of time in Phoenix in the 80s and 90s or in even the 1970s will remember is Cotton Fitzsimmons, who of course was the famous NBA coach who coached the Suns, I want to say, on 4 or 5 different occasions. And it just seemed like every time the Suns would get in a bad situation over the years, they bring this guy in and he'd kind of light the fire under the team for a few years. And very, very reminiscent of that situation and how you were just describing it, Matt.
Yeah. That's a great analogy, man. He's definitely woven himself into the culture of Phoenix and the soccer community here, and it's great to see.
I love it. The last part of our Phoenix Rising preview, we should go down the back line, and goaltender will just quickly mention that we're definitely set there with Carl Wazinski and...
How good as Was? He's another crowd favorite here for the Phoenix Rising.
Right.
And then Lubin, the backup, would be a starter for any other team. So we are stacked at goaltender. In front of the goaltender, not quite so much. The Phoenix Rising back line, that's one area where I'd like to see them make at least 1, hopefully even 2 more signings and really shore up that back line, because in the preseason, they've given up 3 or more goals in a number of games. And I know that's just this preseason, but it was already an area of concern, and that's made me a little bit more concerned. Tonight aside, the defense really has been shaky at the preseason.
Yeah, I think we have a great starting back four. We have Amadou Dia, who's coming back from last year, has locked down that left back position, and he plays really well with Jason Johnson, who usually plays that left wing position. They interchange, they pass. So I think that's his to lose. He's locked that in. And then you look at a guy like Joey Farrell, who's coming back as a center back. Again, had a great year last year, scored some goals, has kind of locked down that position as well. And then we have a new signing that he's been starting next to a lot, and that is AJ Cochran.
Right.
AJ Cochran coming over from Atlanta United 2. What I've seen in the preseason games I've attended against RSL, he's great with the ball. He's calm. He's looking for passes. He'll get himself open for passes. And it looks like him and Joey Farrell are working really well together. So I suspect that that's going to be our starting center backs. And then our right back looks to be Mustafa Doumbouya, if I'm saying that right, who is a new signing coming over.
That is a tough one.
I believe that, Mustafa Doumbouya, I'm not 100% sure on that pronunciation either. But yeah, on the preseason game that I went to against Kansas City, he was a guy that really caught my eye just with his motor. He's a guy that's constantly moving around the field. He's attacking the ball. The other thing, and these are just the kind of little things that you see, especially when you're up close at a game. He took a ball square off the face, and it was probably 40 degrees out that night, and he did not let it phase him. He kept going like nothing happened, and I was like, dang, if I got hit in the face by that ball 40 degrees right now, I would be in some pain. But this guy, man, he did not let it phase him. He went right after the ball. And those are the kinds of things where it just shows heart that the guy obviously is probably in a bit of pain, and he doesn't let it stop his mission of making sure that he's taking care of his duties on the field. And those are the things that really make you respect a guy and know how hard they are working out there.
Yeah, and so I think he's probably locked in that right back position. He's been looking good. So that only really leaves us with Doueugui Mala, who is a center back, and then Logan Gadula, who is on loan to us from FC Cincinnati. Their super draft pick this year, who's coming in. And so I agree, Phil. I think we need a couple more defenders.
Just for depth, if nothing else.
Yeah, and what's interesting to note is that tonight, this is being recorded on February 20th, Wednesday, when Phoenix Rising just played Portland in a preseason game, is that Shaft Brewer Jr. was playing as a fullback. Most Phoenix Rising fans will remember Shaft Brewer Jr., who came over here on loan from LAFC last year. I'm guessing, although it hasn't been confirmed by the club, that we're going to get him on loan this year again from LAFC.
Nice.
But he's listed as a forward.
Really?
And so maybe it's one of those things where we're saying, hey, you know what? You might be better suited for this going forward professionally. Kind of reminded me of what happened with Sporting KC when they moved Graham Zusi from the midfield, and now he's their starting right back, I believe. Maybe we'll see Shaft Brewer Jr. back there this year.
I think Aaron Wan-Bissaka was originally a forward or a midfielder too. I mean, it's pretty common for guys to get moved around in positions that maybe suit their skills a little better,
right.
Maybe give them a chance at making it at the next level.
Right. So, yeah, I'd agree. I think if we bring him in on loan, Shaft Brewer Jr., then we might be set back there.
That would be excellent. My biggest concern is just it's a long season and you're going to have injuries. And I'm concerned about depth. I like Doueugui Mala. However, he's a guy that's really had some problems with yellow cards and discipline and things like that. That's been a little bit of a concern with the back line just as a whole. The Phoenix Rising back line, they seem to get a few too many yellow and red cards. They seem to end up in the book a bit too often. I guess that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. And that's something as a defender you got to be careful, because any good offensive player on another team is going to see that and they're going to start targeting you and going after you and seeing if they can pick up that second yellow.
Yeah, that did happen a lot last year. I can't remember how many times last year we were down to 10 men by the 60th minute.
There was a few there. Yeah.
Yep.
I want to say maybe it was like 8 red cards last year over the course of the season, which is a pretty big number.
Yeah, that's a lot for any soccer team.
Maybe we could do a special on USL referees, although there wouldn't be much special about it, let's just say.
Yeah, I don't know if we have enough time to dive into the referee organization. I mean, some of their stuff is just atrocious.
I believe they all went to the Mike Dean referee.
I think they went to the school for the blind, actually, mate.
Oh, man, you're not giving enough credit to blind people.
True.
Yeah, last year alone, Doueugui Mala had 6 yellow cards and then 1 red card from a yellow card accumulation. But, looking at our back line, I mean, I think we make 1 or 2 more signings, we're gonna be pretty good.
Now, one thing I should mention about Doueugui Mala is he does have his own pizza at Venetia's Pizza, who's an official Phoenix Rising sponsor.
Fantastic.
It's called the Mala Pie. I guess it's the official Phoenix Rising pie. I had one once, and it's got French fries on it, which if you're into that kind of thing, I'd say it's great. I'd probably go without the fries next time, but
you can pick up the Mala for
Venetia's Pizza. We do eat there all the time, and we are looking for sponsors. Give us a call.
Give us a call. Hey, that's my line, mate. That's my line. Leave that alone.
Hey, I digress.
On tonight's show, we talk about pizza. I've actually just pulled up the menu here. The Phoenix Rising Pie, it's called, or the Mala. You can pick up a 12-inch for $14.99. And, oh, man, we need to have a word to the copywriters of their website, too. Grab your cleats and get ready to eat pizza. No, I just had that last bit in there. The fan favorite winning pizza inspired. Oh, I didn't realize it was a fan favorite. Oh, good for you guys. It's packed with cheese, pepperoni, grilled chicken, French fries.
There it is.
How much?
I liked everything except the French fries. And I here's what got me is the French fries had salt on them. I think if the French fries had been unsalted, I'd have been all right, but the salt was just a little too much. But that aside, it really is the best pizza in town. I like the just a regular pepperoni. I actually had one tonight. It's kind of a good luck thing with a Rising or on. I'll usually pick one up on the way
There
home.
we go.
You just got to ask yourself, what other USL team has their own pizza?
They've got their own whiskey sponsor, too.
What other USL team has their own beer? We have the Phoenix Rising Lager, brewed by Four Peaks Brewing. I'm just throwing that out there. If there's any other fans or supporters out there of another USL team, send us a message and let us know. But I don't know of one.
And that's what we're coming back to. I think it's a great community club. And the community's on board. They see the passion of the fans, and I'm pretty sure I've gone out there and bought chocolate milk for my daughter because it had Phoenix Rising on it. So I'm not alone in this. If you see, the brands connected with Phoenix Rising, I'm going to go ahead and buy that. And one of those brands just happened to be Jameson, so I was quite happy with that one.
These aren't businesses like Pizza Hut either. These are businesses in the community, I believe. Venetia's Pizza is only in Arizona and New Mexico, for instance. I really feel like more than any other team in Phoenix right now, the Phoenix Rising really is connected to the community more than certainly the Suns or the Diamondbacks are.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing against Diamondbacks. They're a good organization.
Oh, yeah, I love the Diamondbacks.
The Suns.
And with that should just about wrap up our Phoenix Rising preview. It's really been good for us to be able to sit down and go over some of these new players on the roster.
It has been very good for me to hear because I've been watching for 2 years now. I've got a good understanding of the squad. I don't know who these new players are that are coming in. And I think for us to be able to talk about this to our audience, this is excellent for, us. Yes, all right, let's not be shy about that, but also for those, prospective and current Phoenix Rising fans. like getting to know who your team is. I mean,
Thank you for joining us on tonight's Phoenix Rising preview. This is part 1 of this week's episode. Stay tuned with us tomorrow as we will have our regular weekly episode coming out where we will go over the English Premier League, Championship, League One, and everything that we normally talk about with English football. Thanks again.